Welcome to the Virtual Manager podcast. My name's Anna Russell. I'm an artist manager and founder of The Virtual Manager. Throughout my career, I've developed and managed several music artists from new unsigned acts right through to globally successful ones. This podcast is for all unmanaged or independent music artists who want to start, build, or grow a successful, sustainable music career. This week's episode of the Virtual Manager podcast is all about live streaming for music artists. And this is a direct follow-on from last week's episode where I gave you 10 ways to make the most of downtime amid this ongoing coronavirus pandemic. It's certainly been a testing week for the music industry and for all musicians and music artists. There have been a slew of gig, event, and festival cancellations, as you know. However, just because you can no longer perform live doesn't mean that you can't still play and doesn't mean that you can't still show up for your fan base. Now, music artists and the industry in general have been somewhat slow to embrace live streaming. Whilst there's always been a lot of it, it's been considered simply a nice to have. But due to current world events, this has suddenly become an essential for music artists. I've already been seeing a much increased use of live streaming this week, everything from kitchen DJ sets to John Legend crooning in his living room, which is only going to continue. This does, of course, lead us to think about the need to differentiate yourself as an artist on live streams and to get really creative with them, which is what this episode is going to be all about. Now, live streaming is not an ideal financial or experiential substitute for the live gig experience, of course. However, I think it provides a different experience for both music fans and artists with different benefits and a new way of engaging with one another. Used cleverly, it can accelerate your reach, your fan base, and your engagement growth hugely. For some artists, it's even allowed them to build a significant income stream. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing my top 5 live streaming tips for music artists with you. However, I've also created a full free guide on live streaming for music artists, which includes creative, technical, fan base building, promotional, and engagement tips for your live streams. It also lists the best platforms, tools, and equipment for you to use. These focus on those that are free or very low cost, as I know that now is not necessarily a good time for you to be incurring any additional costs. To get the full live streaming guide now, simply join the waiting list for the Virtual Manager membership and it will be sent out to you right away. To get it, go to thevirtualmanager.co.uk once you've finished listening to this episode. That's www.thevirtualmanager.co.uk. So here are my 5 top live streaming tips for music artists. The first one is simply to encourage engagement. You want to get as much engagement on your live streams, not least because that boosts their visibility of the post, especially if you're on Facebook. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you're promoting the live stream both before and after the event. Treat it the same way you would a gig and promote it heavily across your social media, possibly to your mailing list, and set up events for it where you can. You want to make sure that people know what you're going to be doing and when you're going to be on. And if they're not able to tune in live, you want to make sure that they know after the event where they can go back and rewatch it or replay it. Perhaps you even want to make sure that you are sending it out to your mailing list and making sure that it's reposted across all of your social media platforms. During your live streams, make sure that you personally engage with your audience. Ask them questions and make sure that you're always answering their questions and acknowledging their comments live as far as is possible. At the end of your live stream, ask viewers to share it and like it if possible. This also boosts visibility and ensures that other music fans find it. Better yet, leave them with a call to action. So maybe at the end of your live stream, you're going to ask them to join your mailing list or follow you on a certain platform or purchase your EP or go and stream your latest single or become a patron or even leave a digital tip for you. If you can, to boost engagement, also make sure that you are streaming on more than one platform at a time. Now, you can do this with multiple phones if you have them in your household, and you can also do it with simulcasting tools. Again, that's covered in my live streaming guide. Tip number 2, stream like nobody's watching. Now, of course, when you're on a live stream, you can't see your audience, which at first can be a little unnerving or slightly nerve-wracking. You don't know if people are there, whether they're watching, whether they're enjoying it. So you've got to perform as if they are watching and just focus on what it is that you have prepared for them. Remember as well that it takes a few seconds for people to log on to your live stream, not least because these are usually slightly delayed. So make sure you leave some space at the beginning before you start playing and performing, or prepare an introduction for that reason. Something I like to do when I'm doing live streams is, in case people don't tune in live or they don't engage and ask questions whilst you're live, or for some reason you're not able to see or read their questions and comments, prepare a couple of questions to answer ahead of time. So think about the questions that you are most commonly asked by your fan base and followers, or the questions that you're most commonly asked about the song that you're about to perform. And then if you wish to speak, you've got an opportunity to address a couple of questions, even if they're not actually put to you during the live stream. And because people don't always tune in live or don't necessarily see that you're about to live stream, make sure that you share the live stream across all your other social media platforms where you can after the fact. As people do watch later, they catch up at a different time. So make sure that you are letting them know that there's a live stream up and still available to watch. Tip number 3, get creative with your live streams. Unfortunately, with the online world, you're competing with very short attention spans and dozens, if not hundreds, of other pieces of content and live streams that people can consume, especially now when music artists are all jumping on live streams more than ever before. The first 3 to 5 seconds of your live stream are crucial. This is where people initially decide whether they're going to stick with your live stream a little bit longer or if they're going to keep scrolling. So if needed, prepare an opener or think about what it is that people are going to see and hear immediately at the beginning of the live stream. Can you make it more eye-catching or attention-grabbing? Because if so, you'll get people engaged and absorbed into the live stream for the remainder of that stream. Remember that people get quickly used to seeing and hearing the same thing online. So try to mix up your live streams and ideas. So for example, if you're doing a whole series of live streams, maybe you're going to do a song a week or a gig a week, make sure that you mix them up, make them a bit different, perhaps live stream from different locations within your house or around your house if you're able to, and think about maybe interesting, quirky, unusual spaces you can use or some props. Maybe you can make your own venue sign for the location that you're in. Think about some ways in which you can get creative. And also remember that live streams don't just have to be playing or performing live. There's lots of music artists that use them for other purposes, including things like I've even seen live cooking lessons. So think about your distinctive selling points as an artist, how you would like to engage with your audience live, and then base your live streams around all of those different things that you can use. Tip number 4, prepare to get intimate. Live streaming online often feels a lot more intimate and more exposed than playing in music venues, even if you're used to playing in really small, intimate venues. So prepare your performances or your live streams to suit. That doesn't mean they can't be upbeat. I've seen entire DJ sets and euphoric parties done on live stream. So it doesn't mean that you have to play small or be soft or quiet, but just think about the fact that the audience are literally experiencing it on the other end of their phone, probably from the comfort of their home. So just give that some thought. It is quite intimate and you might feel quite exposed. With that in mind, focus on the emotion of your performance and the experience that you want your audience to have. And finally, tip number 5, keep your technical setup for the live streams as simple as possible. You don't want to have to worry about the technical setup, and you should be able to focus mostly on your performance and engaging with viewers when you're live streaming. So make sure that all of your devices are fully charged and plugged in. Put your phone and devices onto Do Not Disturb or silent. Minimize background noise as much as you can. If you're doing it outside, wind can be particularly noisy. Check that your internet connection is strong and do a test run beforehand if you can do. That's all the time we have for live streaming tips in this episode. However, these are just a starter for 10. I'm making my full guide on live streaming for music artists available to you for free now, especially whilst a lot of us are isolated during this ongoing pandemic. It includes many more tips. So there's creative, technical, promotional, fan base building and engagement tips in that live streaming guide, plus the best platforms, tools and equipment to use for live streaming. To get it now, go to www.thevirtualmanager.co.uk, enter your email address, and it will be sent out to you right away. Now, before I leave you for this week, I want to let you know that we are going to be taking a short pause in the Virtual Manager podcast. For the next 2 weeks, there will be no new episodes. But this is because I'm putting the very final touches onto the Virtual Manager membership, which you've heard me talking a lot about here. And I don't want to compromise the quality of the podcast episodes whilst I do that. However, we will be returning with a brand new episode and a very special announcement on Tuesday, the 14th of April. So subscribe to the podcast now to make sure you don't miss that one, and I will be joining you back here then. In the meantime, I'll be continuing to share music industry tips over on my social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AR Artist Management. See you very soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Virtual Manager podcast. If you've found it useful, I invite you to check out the Virtual Manager membership site. The Virtual Manager is an essential resource for independent music artists who want to start, build, or grow a successful, sustainable music career. It ensures that you have the foundations of that music career in place, then helps you to build on those to achieve your music career goals. With monthly music industry training, a library of tools and resources, A&R feedback on your music, access to live Q&As with me, plus an active, supportive community of like-minded artists, the Virtual Manager is the perfect place to be for any unmanaged or independent artist. The Virtual Manager relaunches very shortly, so to get early bird access at the lowest membership price, join the waiting list now at thevirtualmanager.co.uk. Finally, please take a minute to review and subscribe to this podcast. It helps more independent music artists to find us.